Thank you for joining our third in a row Tech Talk seminars. My name is Eric Ruskowski, President of LandWorks. With me, I have Rachel and Arthur, who will be doing the majority of the talking. Today, what we have is a topic that is fairly technical, and I hope everybody can follow along with this. It is not some of the easiest content to digest, but it is super important. Let me tell you exactly why this is important. The situation happened exactly to myself, and what happened was one of our customers got an email, an impersonation email from me, and it instructed them to change our wire transfer banking information. So essentially what the instruction said was to pay the invoices to this new banking information. Thank goodness the customer emailed back and said, no, you have to fill out this form in order to change this. I asked for the email, the impersonation email. It was forwarded to us, and that set off all kinds of alarm bells. It did not happen, but nonetheless, this is why this seminar is extremely important to you. It is preventing this type of impersonation type of event. Without further ado, I'll turn it over to Rachel and Arthur. Content, it'll be a number of PowerPoint slides, but then there will be live demonstration of Valimail, which is a good portion of what this content is about here.
All right, so our topic is stop phishing attacks before they reach your customers. So basically, this is about the reputation of your email. It's not about protecting your users on the inside, but it's protecting your customers, protecting your business partner, really protecting your reputation. So as Eric said, it is a little bit technical, but there's some key important terms that we want everyone to really understand and get across. The first one is your SPF record, or your sender policy framework. A lot of people have probably heard about this already, and it's one of the key pieces of this puzzle. Basically, it means these are the mail servers I am sending mail from. If the mail says it's from me, but it comes from somewhere else, it is likely fake. So that's number one. The second one is what we call DKIM, or Domain Keys Identified Mail. This is basically a digital signature that my mail server uses to sign outbound emails. If the signature is missing or does not match, it is not my email, and it is fake. And the piece that ties this all together is DMARC, which is Domain-Based Message Authentication, Reporting, and Conformance. If my sent mail doesn't match the above, here's what I want you to do with it. So basically, this is setting a policy if the above two don't match, and it tells them what to do with it. Very, very important in terms, and we'll continue to talk on this and dive a little deeper into each. And another key note is that every one of these services needs a DNS record, a public DNS record, so people understand how to read them.
All right, so let's start with the SPF. I mean, pretty much probably every single one of you has an SPF record somewhere created. On the slide, if you look at, there's a DNS record at the bottom with the D equals SPF1. That's what the DNS kind of record looks like. But in theory, what happens here is any email you send, any service you use for sending email, whether being Constant Contact, MailChimp, Microsoft Outlook, Gmail, this needs to be identified in that DNS record. So when that mail goes out on the receiving end, when the server receives that email, it validates those entries. And if those entries match, then it says the mail came from LandWorks. And if it doesn't match, that means somebody is trying to spoof that email. And at that point, we can have a policy to deal with that email.
So again, the next thing is that digital signature. So email, again, is sent from my mail server, and it stamps it with a digital signature. And there's a DNS record that gets your public key, and it either matches or it does match it. The key thing here is it's no different than stamping a signature on a painting. You'd have a specialist look at the painting and they deem whether that signature is true or not. And that's really what this is, to put it in the simplest terms.
And then finally, so this is a DMARC. So DMARC kind of combines the SPF and DCOM to validate, but on top of it, what it does, it provides a policy. So the policy is either it can be set to none, quarantine, or reject. And then what does that mean? Is on the receiving end, when the server receives the email, and if these keys do not match, how do you basically, you telling the receiving end how to manage that email? So the policy is set to none, the message will get delivered and nothing will be flagged. If it's quarantine, obviously it's going to go to the quarantine, and if it's reject, that says that don't even process the email, just drop it right at the gate. And at that point, also what DMARC offers here is the reporting, right? So now you can have visibility into how that mail is being treated on the outside.
I'm just going to stop for just 1 second. If people want to ask any questions, you can raise your hand in the or send the email, or send rather the question in the chat. Do we want to address these questions at the beginning, or as they come up, or at
it doesn't matter. It's
Sure.
open content, whatever works. Yeah.
It's open policy.
So basically, the 3 items we talked about really tells customers that we are confident in our email that is being sent, that we know it's coming from us, and it is protecting our reputation. So you really get 3 things from here. Authenticity, the email really comes from the claim domain. So it really is my email. Integrity, the contents of the email have not been altered in transit. So basically, stamping that digital signature, having the encryption, I am confident that the email is coming from Landmarks. And if it's not coming from Landmarks, then I either want you to reject it, or I want you to quarantine it, depending on what I put on my policy. But I do not want it delivered to protect our domain.
So yeah, I mean, go ahead. I mean, let's look at the DMARC. So the most difficult part of implementing DMARC is, you don't need any third-party services to set up your DMARC. It's very easy to set up personally. Like if you just set up your SPF, you set up your DCOM, you set up your DMARC records, and off you go. However, the difficult part here is if you set up your policies to reject, and potentially if you have services in there that you don't know about, and then we'll show you that in the demo, because I mean, we found out ourselves, suddenly your email is being dropped and not being delivered, and you actually have no visibility into that, right? So that's the biggest thing in DMARC. And DMARC up to now was kind of very difficult to implement if you want to have full visibility, and it was fairly expensive. However, you know what, with the latest changes, we kind of bundle this, and we said, hey, we can offer this as a managed service and kind of manage this for customers.
How could I see if someone is spoofing my email, and why should I care? I mean, everyone should care about their email, and Eric gave a great example of why I need to care about my email. The other thing is if someone clicks on a link and it says it's coming from Rachel@landmarks.com and it's the start of a ransomware attack, I would feel horrible as an organization. Even though it really didn't come from me, I would just feel terrible. So that is why I need to care. And it's just, making sure that, the reputation of your company is, is good, protected, good. And we have the tools to protect our domain. And sometimes, as Arthur said, it was just too complicated, or we didn't understand, or how do we get that reporting? And this is how you do it through Valimail.
I guess question number 3 would be, some of my customers are receiving emails that are not sent by me. Is there an easy way to prevent this? Again, we talked about this. So you have your DMARC policies. So if your policy is to reject email, any email that doesn't come from you and it's spoofed, and so it says it comes from Eric at Landworks, and none of the other records match, DMARC will just drop that email, and that email will never end up in somebody's mailbox. And on top of it, again, I cannot stress this enough, it's the reporting. Like you can go and have a look and then see what your email is doing out in the wild.
It will show you how to look up, other companies' DMARC policies, but many of us, initially put it to none because we're not sure where our email is coming from, but it never changes out of that none state. So, we're not preventing, at the end of the day, emails getting delivered to our customers, and if it's that. Valimail and its benefits. I know we're iterating this over and over again, but as Arthur says, it really gives us visibility to all those emails out there in the world, whether they're being sent from us or not being sent from us. And that's the key word, is not being sent from us. We can see that it's either getting blocked or quarantined or whatever. That visibility is really great. And the other thing is Valimail gives a very simplistic configuration. It really helps. And then we're not going to get into the nitty-gritty detail of it, but it is setting up all those DNS records. That makes it quite simple.
So why Valimail? Again, it is a leader in that space, and the reason they're a leader is because they're the only ones that are in partnership with Microsoft. Microsoft actually does not send DMARC reports to general public. So a lot of emails being sitting inside, or a lot of organizations sitting inside Microsoft Office 365. Great, I can have DMARC, I can have all that, but Microsoft does not send these reports out to other vendors. So
what are in these reports that is so important?
Right. So these reports, really, what you gain out of the report is the visibility of things like, is somebody spoofing my email? So as somebody tries to send an email to Microsoft, and let's say somebody sends it to a customer in Microsoft and it comes from landworks.com and it's spoofed, Microsoft will drop it, but it will not send that DMARC report to anybody else except Valimail. And Valimail just became really the partner to go to for DMARC. The problem was that Valimail was very expensive. I mean, their product was in a range of $15,000 to $20,000 US per year to have that as a service. Now they came up, literally in the last 3 months, they came up with an MSP program, and that's why we kind of figured that we can kind of bundle this and then sell this at a
Fraction of the cost.
Fraction of a cost with that visibility.
It doesn't have quite the extensive reporting, but it has quite good features for SMB as opposed to a Fortune 100.
It's phenomenal metrics.
Correct. What it gives you, it does give you the visibility. You cannot drill into the details as to find out who sent the email and when, but it will tell you that the email was faked and it came from that part of the world. And then you will see whether the message was delivered or whether the message was dropped. And for most customers, this is enough, right?
So just to ask one more question, this doesn't protect my email, it protects the email that is going out, is that correct?
Correct.
It doesn't protect your user sitting in front of their Outlook that they're receiving email.
It's not
But if everyone set up DMARC, then yes, it would protect the inbound as well.
Because it's not the inbound, it's the outbound. We care about reputation. Again, especially for us, we're being in a service business. We have a lot of customers, a lot of emails going out from Landworks, right? And in that case, if suddenly, like Rachel said, somebody gets an email from Rachel and it's got a link and it says click here, and then suddenly you get ransomware or you get infected with something. Again, it's bad. It's just bad business. In today's day and age, where
there is tools,
there is the technology, and there is to protect yourself, right?
Awesome, thank you.
Okay, so we're going to do a quick little demo on what the interface looks like, and we set up Landworks on this. As Arthur said, maybe 60, 90 days ago when it was first made available for small, medium businesses.
We do have a question
Yeah.
before you run into the demo, if that's possible.
Yeah, of course.
I had a question regarding, two questions actually. Question one was the DMARC reject email. Does the DMARC reject email if SPF and DCOM both fails together, or either one of them will work? So is it both, or is it either one? And the second part of that question is, in order to engage DMARC, do we need to have SPF and DCOM registered?
Correct.
Correct.
Okay.
It's a two-part question.
Yeah.
But he answered the question, or he or she, I'm not sure who sent that, but it doesn't matter. Yes, you need to have SPF and DCOM set up. As long as one of them passes, mail will get delivered or will honor your policy.
However, there is, so one of them needs to pass. However, there is, kind of gotchas to that. Because SPF records, especially if you're using kind of third-party services, actually the SPF header can get rewritten in transit, right? So it might fail, but the DCOM will not.
So the SPF can be tricky, but the
That's
DCOM
right.
is tried and
DCOM will
true.
never fail. If you have a DCOM configured, if your DCOM doesn't match,
Yeah.
so for example, inside Microsoft, if you send an email to Microsoft, and even if you have your policy set to none, and if your DCOM fails, Microsoft will drop it because it will say, no, this is fake, right? So that kind of.
Again, DCOM is a digital signature. It's using certificates, so it can't be changed.
Great.
Okay.
We've got two more questions.
Okay.
Second question, I guess, is how long, roughly, I guess, would this take to set up?
Yeah.
On average, so when we set this up, so the initial setup is probably, few hours, depending on how many domains you want to protect. The initial kind of discovery phase, we tend to run it between 30 to 60 days to see what's really out there. So you kind of run it in the discovery mode, right? Like, let all the emails go out, and then let's monitor all the services, and then bring it all back, look at the reports and see, hey, here's where the email's coming from. What's legit, what's not legit. And then from there on, you start.
You update the policies and change them.
You start tightening out the policy, and now you're in a.
And you can see that in our demo. You can see we shut up ours as none and then moved our policy.
Awesome. So final question for now, is there a limit of domains being reviewed?
Yes. And it's
Can you talk more about
sky's the
that?
limit.
Sky's the limit.
There is no domain. So basically, this is per domain. So you can have as many domains as you like, and then you just build that into your Valimail account per se.
Awesome. All right, I think that's all the questions for now. Do you guys want to show us what
Yep.
Valimail is made of?
Right.
So this is kind of like the home page, I guess. I'll click on this screen. This is the, whoop.
You broke it.
You broke it.
Sorry, I'm just changing it around here. Keep going.
Now we must be.
Okay, sorry, Van's changing our screen around on us, so I was trying to make it better for us, but I'm not sure it works. There we go. So this is an overview page of, all emails, and you can see most of ours are coming from Canada. We had a big bulk of them from the US, which probably are just Microsoft servers in the United Kingdom. But the more interesting screen is suspicious emails. So I've got this running over the last 60 days, and as you can see, we had a bunch of suspicious emails coming from Canada. Well, that was kind of a trigger for us, like why do we have over 300 emails trying to spam us coming out of Canada? So we'll get into that though.
Just scroll down a little bit.
Yep.
There we go.
So at one point in time, we had our policy to none, so no enforcement. So you can see how much of our mail was going through and no enforcement. As soon as we stuck our policy to quarantine, when we were confident that all our sources and all our DCOM were aligned, we set our policy to quarantine, because that's kind of the stage that Arthur was talking about. You go from none, you go then to quarantine, and then we go outright reject. At this point in time, we're quite confident where all our emails coming from, so we would move ours into reject, but we wanted to leave it like this for the demo. And then this policy override, that is kind of where people would say like whitelist landmarks, which, no one should ever whitelist a domain. But this is where, a small percentage of email may filter through, even though they're not using our policy.
And again, whitelisting, even in Microsoft, I think it's not, Microsoft kind of removed whitelisting altogether. You can blacklist, but you cannot whitelist anymore. because it just doesn't make sense. And again, they're enforcing DKIM on email systems, because I mean, a lot of hackers, especially hackers, can stand up a site within Microsoft 365 and start spamming people within 365. So SPF, everything matches because you're using a legit system. But at the end of the day, the DKIM keys don't, because those you cannot really fake.
So the other thing we wanted to show you is this is our DMARC status. So here again, that big red area is those 300 plus emails that were coming through, basically using our domain to send out email. Now, we ended up discovering that it was actually an internal device of ours, some networking that I set up. It didn't tell us, it didn't have an SPF record, and it wasn't using DKIM. So it clearly was failing DMARC. We were able to trace that out using the reports and discovered where our problem was.
So we would never have known this, and probably that this was sending out emails for probably a year or more.
Could have been.
And we had no idea that this is doing it until we engaged this.
And our policy was always none, so they were always getting delivered.
Right.
Yeah, it could have been spam. Yeah, it could have been a rogue device on our network.
Right.
Which is essentially what it was.
Yeah.
So when we click on SPF, you can see again that device was failing.
And then once we fix that, it's just the SPF alignments went down drastically. On the DKIM is a little different. If you click on that DKIM, so you can see. So the DKIM reports that you see here, that the stuff that is fading, we are using Autotask, and then we're using their service desk, and they have an issue with a DMARC or with DKIM, and it's a known issue with them. We've been working with them for about, I don't know, 2 months now, trying to get this fixed. They're trying to resolve this, and these are those failures that you see here on this report.
But going back to the question that was asked, SPF is passing for Autotask, so the mail is still getting delivered. So it's the DKIM part. You know, both of them were failing. Our mail wouldn't get delivered.
So they're failing here, but they're not being stamped with DKIM from Autotask. So they are being delivered to our customers, but this still flags it as a failure.
I like this slide. Anything that is light blue here, this is what we had our policy set to none, and you can see that, you know, all our mail is getting passed here.
Just for clarity again, and to repeat, policy set to none means that it deliver the email regardless of any of the settings. It just means pass it through. Policy set to reject or to quarantine, that's where it's in the dark color, right?
Right, so here I'm highlighted on the very first one that was set to quarantine. And already you get, on the very first day, you had one message that was quarantined because our policy was set to quarantine.
Right.
Yeah.
So a quick question, if you've.
Yeah, go ahead, yeah.
So we had someone ask if Valimail is also a monitoring tool for DMARC, as Office 365 does not have this capability.
Correct. So Office 365 will send, as Arthur said, the reporting to Valimail, and they are, you know, the partner with Microsoft, and these reports that get loaded into Valimail, because if you were to look at these reports, I showed Eric actually one just last week to see what it looked like, those reports, and they're
Japanese.
Yeah, it's extremely hard to determine what it's saying, so it makes it into a useful interface for you.
Awesome, thank you. Carry on.
Well, I think really, oh, there's one other thing. How do you check if you have DMARC? So here's Landmarks, I put it up. You can go to MX Toolbox. Most people know what MX Toolbox is. You know, usually when you hit their landing page, you end up on the
DNS lookup or
MX lookup, but you hit the little drop down here and it flips you over to DMARC. So if you put in, you know, landmarks.com, you click DMARC lookup, you can see that our policy is quarantine. I'm not going to go in through all these nitty gritty things, but basically it says send all your reports to Valimail. Okay. If we were to use
Landmarks.ca.
No, Swiss Chalet.
Van's favorite place to eat. Kidding. You know, they don't have a DMARC policy. So they have an MX record and they have a
Cara Foods company.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying. But, you know, I'm not going to pick on any company here. The point is that, you know, I could put in landmarks.com. We have that, or landmarks.ca, we have this domain, but we don't really send email from it. But we have
We do have a policy set to none, and then we do send reports to Valimail, so we can see, just in case somebody tries to send email from landmarks.ca, we'll see it. We'll see it as a report, right? And whatever, we can take action from that.
And yes, we could set it to reject or whatever.
Exactly.
We just started with Valimail as ourselves, so we're just, you know, set up landmarks.com first.
Again, the whole thing about DMARC is, and it's always been an issue, is getting that visibility, because setting up DMARC is easy, but you have no idea of what it's that causing to your business. What's worse, not delivering legit mail or delivering illegitimate email, right? So that's what Valimail will do. It will give you that visibility.
So it's no different than, you know, Van's heading up this marketing campaign and, you know, using Constant Contact is what we use,
Yeah.
right? And initially he didn't tell us that he was using this service. So if our policy was set to quarantine, no one would have got our email because we did not set up those DNS records.
So I think that's a takeaway for all the people that are watching this webinar is go to MX Toolbox, put your domain names, if you have a couple of them, put them all in. And what you're looking for is that P equals to quarantine or reject. If it's set to anything other than that, like none, or if you have the big red X for failing, then that's probably, you should give us a call. And this is a complicated, or it can be a complicated process, but you know, Rachel and Arthur spent so much time with this over quite a number of months that we can simplify it big time for you. So that really just reach out and we can help pretty much anybody with their settings.
You know, the fact that it's so affordable now.
We've been at it for about 3 years, right? So I mean, you know, we looked at other tools, DMARC, we looked at Proofpoint and a bunch of other points, and you know, Valimail was always coming as on top. We just, you know, the price point on Valimail was just out of reach for most customers, right? So we never kind of, you know, played in that space, and we kind of waited until they finally came up with a sort of an MSP program where it's very affordable now at this price point.
So I guess one of the other things that the two of you pointed out earlier is that as of next year, February 2024, Gmail and Yahoo Mail, they will not accept email from you if you don't have DMARC set. So I'm presuming that that's going to be a trend with pretty much most large email providers and companies, that it's just going to be a requirement to do business just because of the protection of, you know, of your reputation, protection of, then, you know, protecting everybody from being spammed and impersonated.
Yeah.
Correct. So that's the step one.
So I guess that pretty much sums up our webinar here. If anybody has any additional questions that are not posted here, please reach out to us. We thank you very much for participating. And I think we're going to have this recording posted after the fact, that, you know, any colleague that you have or friend or family, whatever, you know, we can send them the link. So again, thank you very much for listening in.